Although Nintendo games are generally easy experiences meant for people of all ages to enjoy, there are times where there can be some annoying moments, quickly changing your playthrough from fun to frustrating. These situations you encounter almost always leads into you losing a life. So, that gave me the idea to create an entire video just around that, titled The Worst Ways to Die in Every Nintendo Franchise. Now, these can be due to in-game features such as unforgiving bosses, difficult enemies, horrible mechanics, or just straight up bad luck. But whatever it is, it can make everything unfun. Oh yeah, before I get started, my name is Copycat, and if you haven't yet, then please subscribe to my channel and hit that bell button to stay notified when I upload new videos. We're gonna start this video off by looking at the Mario franchise of games, where there are a few terrible ways to die across the series, starting with a classic, running out of time. This has been a staple way to lose a life in the series ever since the original NES entry, where you're given a set amount of time to complete a level before everything automatically ends and you need to start over. This really only gets in your way throughout select situations, like the maze level in the first NES entry and Lost Levels, the Galaxy Speedrun stars, and tough creator courses that you can play online in the Super Mario Maker games. As the time slowly ticks down, the music becomes faster and faster, adding a whole nother layer of panic that can directly lead to you losing a life. Another very annoying way to die in the Mario series is at the hands of a friend, which can actually happen very often within games where you can play cooperatively together. Showing up mainly in New Super Mario Bros. Wii and Wii U, Super Mario Maker, and Super Mario 3D World, it's almost as if these games were forced to accommodate multiplayer play, even if it created extremely chaotic situations where getting in each other's way was almost inevitable. Even worse is when a player is intentionally trolling, as it's very easy for them to get in your way and cause you to die. Especially in Super Mario Maker, where someone can just block your path, making it impossible to complete the level. The next franchise we're going to look at in this video is the Legend of Zelda series, where I'd have to say that there's one really terrible way to die that comes to mind, and what happens when you try to steal from the shopkeeper in Link's Awakening. That's because if you do end up taking an item without paying, then during your next visit, the shopkeeper will enact his revenge by blasting you with a laser beam that will instantly kill you. This is an absolutely morbid way to die, but I guess there is an upside in that he at least allows you back in his shop. Another bad way to die that I want to mention comes from the 3DS Link Between Worlds entry, where if you get killed with Ravio's rented weapons on you, then they will be retrieved by Shiro, and you'll have to go back to the shop and collect them all over again. If you straight up purchase the items when you can, then they won't be taken away from you if you get killed, but they are very expensive to buy outright, making this one annoying in-game mechanic. Of course, I can't talk about Zelda and bad ways to die without mentioning the Ocarina of Time's Cuccos. These chickens will attack you relentlessly if you accidentally hit one, swarming you until they literally peck you to death. When this first happened to me, I was both confused and horrified, as it is a pretty gruesome way to die in a Zelda game. The next franchise we're going to look at is the platforming shoot-'em-up Metroid series, where in the game's first entry, I've actually gotten stuck during the Mother Brain boss fight, causing me to lose a life. This happens specifically in the pit right under where the Mother Brain is situated, where if you fall in, it's hard to get out as enemies are constantly shooting at you. Honestly, the best thing to do if you get stuck here is to just lose a life, as there's no way of getting out. One enemy I really got frustrated over when I was playing the newest Dread entry are the Emmys, who kill me several times during my playthrough across the varying different versions that show up in the game. The one I had the most trouble with was the Purple Emmy, as it resides in the underwater areas of Ferenia. This means that it'll be moving relatively slow while the Emmy tries to blast you with its paralyzing shot, that can travel through walls by the way, so if you're not careful it will definitely catch up to you and eliminate you. I won't lie, this game's difficulty definitely surprised me when I first played it, as even though it is named Dread, I never expected Nintendo to make a game so tough. As a longtime fan of the Donkey Kong series, I'd have to say that my least favorite way to die is by a bramble, specifically the ones found in the second SNES Country entry. I'm not lying when I say as a young kid, I must have lost about 100 lives on Bramble Blast, Bramble Scramble, Screech's Sprint, and Animal Antics, as one wrong move towards the thorns, which happens incredibly often by the way, will immediately kill you. Whether this is due to the tight platforming sections or the hard to control squawks, it's annoying either way, and even nowadays, I still have trouble. The only annoying way to die from the Kid Icarus franchise that I can think of comes from its original NES installment, where there's one status effect that will almost certainly get you killed in the Eggplant Curse. Cast upon you by the Eggplant Wizards that are found within the game's fortresses, this curse will transform Pit into a walking eggplant, disabling all your attacks, forcing you to seek out a hospital to cure it. This, however, isn't an easy thing to do, and many times on my way to heal, I get killed by other enemies and would lose a life. One thing that always confused me about the Kirby series is that the levels are so easy, but the boss fights are incredibly tough, almost guaranteeing that this insane shift will cause you to lose a life. Although most fights can be learned pretty quickly, and you'll probably only die a few times once you figure out the mechanics, there are a set of final boss fights that are extremely grueling, in the ones against the Miracle Matter and Zero 2 from Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards. In the first fight against the Miracle Matter, this strange dice form enemy will transform itself into a random copy ability, attacking Kirby over and over until its sides turn from red to black. If you do happen to survive this unforgiving battle, and have 74 Crystal Shards collected, then you'll get to face off against the even tougher Zero 2, who is initially invincible until you stun it by attacking its eye. However, this is no easy task, and you'll almost certainly die from the boss's attacks, or the poisonous gas it releases when you deal damage to it. Next up, we're going to look at the worst way to die from the Rails Shoot 'em Up Star Fox series, where I'd have to say that honor goes to being defeated by Andross during the final boss fight on Venom. That's because if this giant floating head of a wizard does end up beating you, then Fox will scream out in absolute agony, which is definitely a sickening thing to hear, as you can sense the anguish in his voice. Usually when you die in this N64 entry, it's the other characters around you that exclaim in sadness.
Get this guy off!
But being that Venom is completely a solo mission, there's no one you can hear but Fox himself. Next, we're going to look at the Yoshi series of games, which are definitely geared to a younger audience due to its easier gameplay, but there is still one bad way to die, specifically the instant death trigger that you can force in Yoshi's Story. This can be done by pressing L, Z, A, and B at the same time, which will stop the game, and the Shy Guys will swoop in and take you away as if you lost a life. This reminds me a bit of the old Alt F4 days, as I could definitely see friends trolling each other by saying that this is a secret code that would give you infinite lives, for it actually just to end your playthrough with that Yoshi. I thought instead of looking at the worst ways of dying in the Wario franchise, I would instead showcase one interesting mechanic from both the second and third LAN entries, where you actually can't die at all. No matter how hard you try, there just isn't a way to get eliminated in these games, as Nintendo realized that getting rid of lives meant that they could expand on the gameplay, which was a good idea due to the limitations of the Game Boy. Unfortunately, when you take away the ability to lose lives, you also greatly reduce its difficulty, meaning that any risk factors that would usually make your playthrough more fun disappeared. As well, it also created environments that you had to constantly return to, especially if you got knocked off the ledge or inflicted with some sort of status effect, which unfortunately got really repetitive very quickly. The massively popular Pokemon franchise is the next we're going to look at, where there are a couple bad ways to die I want to talk about, starting with status effects. From my over 25 years of playing this series, I can definitely say that this mechanic ended up getting my Pokemon killed more than anything else, as when inflicted in battle, and with a bit of bad luck, they can render you absolutely helpless. The most common of these effects include Confusion, which can cause you to miss an attack and hurt yourself instead, Burn, which deals damage to the affected Pokemon each turn and nerfs its move damage. Freeze, which can render your Pokemon unable to move. Paralysis, which makes your Pokemon have a 25% chance of not being able to use a move. Poison, which inflicts your Pokemon with a set amount of damage each turn. And finally, my least favorite, Ensleep, which literally puts your Pokemon to sleep for 1 to 7 turns. Where honestly, I always felt like I was unlucky with this specific one, and the latter would more often than not be the case. Even if you do survive these effects in battle, some of them can still continue to linger on, and in a few cases can actually cause your Pokemon to die, which can be very annoying, especially if you don't have an antidote to cure it. The only other bad way to die in the Pokemon series that I want to mention is an extremely dark topic, but one I still want to mention at least as a bit of a PSA. That's because, believe it or not, people have actually died in real life due to playing Pokemon Go. There is literally a site called Pokemon Go Death Tracker that says to date that there have been 22 deaths and 61 confirmed injuries due to the game. Now, I don't want to go into too much detail, so check the site out for yourself if you're interested. Let's just say most of these are caused because of driving while playing, or fights people have actually had with each other out in public. Although there's really no way to die in the Animal Crossing franchise, you can however get stung and pass out from one of the few insects that you can find on your island. This includes spiders, wasps, and scorpions, where if you're not prepared with your net ready to swing, then you'll get hurt by one of these critters and your face will begin to swell up. There's no crazy downside to this, as you'll just get returned to your house, which is really more annoying than anything else. I can't really pinpoint one bad way to die from the Fire Emblem series, except for Fog of War levels, but I've already talked about those at length in other videos, so instead, I want to look at losing your favorite characters as the worst. Of course, many of you would probably just reload from the last save point if you lost a hero that you wanted to keep alive to the end. But some fans actually consider this a cop-out, and have had many discussions online about why people shouldn't do this. Instead, a few in the community strive for other players to use permadeath playthroughs, meaning that if a character dies, they die, and there's no going back. Obviously, at the end of the day, it's up to you as the player, but I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments below. One thing about the Xenoblade franchise that I always felt was strange is that there isn't really any penalty for dying at all, as you don't have lives or drop items. Instead, you just get sent back to the last landmark you visited. One thing I have seen people say is a bit annoying, however, is having to fight against enemies on a very narrow mountain path, which will definitely result in either you or one of your party members falling off the side. Next up is the Ghost Hunting Luigi's Mansion franchise, where to be honest, the only place I ever really lost lives across the entire trilogy was in the third installment's flooded B2 area. Here I found trying to maneuver around on the rubber ducky, using your vacuum as a propulsion device, very tricky, as if you run into a spike or enemy, you will certainly take damage and could lose a life. The exact same can be said about this area's boss fight, where I don't think I've had to retry a battle as many times in the series as this one, as I just couldn't get a hang of how the ducky handled. I guess this is more annoying than bad, but either way, I really hated it. The first of the Nintendo multiplayer franchises we're gonna look at is the Splatoon series, where I'd have to say a very bad way to die would be by accident. This can be done in many ways, but the worst is by the map's environmental hazards, especially as they are very easy to fall into, which will instantly kill you. I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty good at shooter games, but I absolutely suck at Splatoon, so trust me when I say this happened to me a lot. I initially wasn't going to include the Mario Kart franchise, as you don't really ever die in this series, but I do want to talk about one situation that will make you die a little inside, and getting hit by a blue shell while near the finish line. Just watch this clip, and you'll understand how painful it can be. The final franchise we're going to look at in this video is the Ensemble Fighting Super Smash Bros. Series, where I'd have to say that the worst way to die is by self-destructing, aka by killing yourself. There are a few moves from characters where if you're not careful, you can easily make yourself fall off the edge of the stage and lose a life. This can happen literally at any skill level of player, as when the games get fast-paced, you have to react quickly, and mistakes can definitely be made. Alright, that's gonna be it for today's video, guys. I really hope you did enjoy this one. If you did, please leave a like, comment below what you thought about it, and of course subscribe to my channel. Also, please follow my Instagram at Copycat Gamer. There I upload some cool clips and items from my collection that you won't see anywhere else. Hope you guys all have a good day, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.